Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the amazing realm of bizarre news. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl. Now, roll tape!
Realm of bizarre news, but first, the trivia question of the day. Let me extricate it here from its paper prison. The question: what is the technical term for a tree lover? Multiple choice, inverse alphabetical order. Is it a selenophile, patomophile, nephophile, lilapsophile, dendrophile, or glenophile? Now the only prize for the correct answer is one pat on the back that you'll have to administer to yourself. If you want $1 million, call Meredith Vieira, but please do not call us. We do not have any operators to take your calls. If we did, we still could not afford prizes. Certainly not $1 million. I'll take a sip of water and be back momentarily with that correct answer. An ET, right there. Okay, calling time. Now let's look at the 6 possible answers for a tree lover. Is it a selenophile, patomophile, nephophile, lilapsophile, dendrophile, or glenophile? And is that your final answer? A glenophile? No, it's a dendrophile. And for the record, a selenophile loves the moon, a patomophile rivers, nephophile clouds, lilapsophile hurricanes, and a glenophile loves slime. Now, speaking of trees, there's a man in Orissa, India, who 50 years ago got into a spat with his wife, so he climbed a tree in the front yard and refused to come down. He really showed her because he stayed up there 50 years. He's now 83. Apparently it hasn't harmed his health because he's doing pretty well. He comes down occasionally for some water from the pond and to pick up food left at the tree, at the bottom of the tree, but even though his relatives have begged him to come down, he refuses to do so. You know what I say about him? He's a real man's man. Also a candidate, a strong candidate for our Doofus of the Week award. Now, speaking of that rotting, stinking cow, this was in West Milford, West Virginia recently, where a cow got trapped in a tree near a dam and died. And its stench was just infusing the entire town. But the town fathers refused to do anything because that was 500 feet beyond the city limits. And the people appealed to the county, the state, and the federal government. And no one did anything. And for 7 weeks they suffered until that cow was finally removed by the fire department. And you know what I say to those people? They need to get themselves some guts. I don't care if they grow them in a garden, make them in a lab, or buy them in a swap meet. They need guts. You know what they should have done? They should have gone right out there with a knife and a fork, each one of them, cut off a slice of the cow, cooked it up, ate it, and ended the problem. They needed guts. Yeah. Now, speaking of eating, we have a spoon and a knife, and this pertains to a restaurant up in Troy, New York. The waiter noticed that the chef was using a rotting tomato for a meal and complained, and the chef did not appreciate that. So first he bopped him on the head with a spoon, then he knifed him in the shoulder, and of course, he's been fired. In fact, the chef got a year in jail for that. The waiter's okay, but no word on whether or not that rotting tomato made it to the diner's table. So if you're getting any tomatoes at a restaurant, check them out carefully. Now here's a fish. This refers to Kipper, the catfish, in Dorset, England. He and his tank mate got into a vicious fight and splashed water outside of their tank. That hit the wire leading to the cord heating their tank, and that started a fire. The house burned down. The good news, the owners escaped. The bad news, poor Kipper and his tank mate burned to death. And speaking of fires, we have some sparrows in Boston, Massachusetts. They were building a nest right under the ledge of a car dealership. Swooped down to a wastebasket and picked up some lighted cigarettes, brought them back to the nest, set the nest on fire. That burned down the car dealership, $100,000 worth of damage, but we understand the sparrows did escape, fortunately. And now here we have a TP tube, and this pertains to the case of Middlefield, Ohio. This is an Amish community where they still use the horse and buggy. They have about 3 dozen hitching posts, and there's a gal who's the official pooper scooper who scoops up the poop each day. But somebody's been stealing that poop. It's possibly a farmer who wants it for fertilizer, or conceivably someone who's selling fertilizer to farmers. And the problem is, she says, when they take away the poop, they sort of flatten out some of it, so it makes her job of cleaning up Terrible. And you know what I say to that? Darn! 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 Huh? And that concludes this edition of the Realm of Bizarre News. We have a riot here. Hey, this is part of our show.
Now, until next time, may the power of the cosmos be with you. Yes, yes, yes.